Today, we're preparing the base cake for our Bakersfield Independence Day cake. Our base cake is our sponge cake. The ingredients of the sponge cake are cake flour, white sugar, baking powder and salt, cake master, vegetable oil, eggs, and a flavoring. Today, our flavoring will be our Bakersfield vanilla flavoring. So we'll start mixing our sponge cake. First, we'll pour in our 8 eggs in the bowl. Okay. And then, we'll place our cake master. After that, we'll pour in our dry ingredients, our flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. And if you notice, we place all of our ingredients in the bowl together. Why? We're able to do that because we are using Cake Master. We place everything inside except for the oil. We add the oil at the last. Before we start the machine, we mix the ingredients using a spatula. Okay, so we don't overwork our mixer. And then your flour doesn't splatter all over you. Okay? Doesn't have to be smooth. Kahit ganyan ka rough, okay lang. Okay? Just flip it. Okay, and then you start the machine on low. Just to blend it in. And then once you see your flour is incorporated, we increase the speed. And then we mix this for 5 minutes on high. So, itong one bowl method, hindi nyo siya magagawa without Cake Master. Essential ingredient siya dito sa recipe na to. Okay? But, what's good about this recipe, you don't need to separate your eggs anymore. You dump everything in the bowl. So, less work for you. Tapos, I know it's taxing to be separating your eggs, so it's easier for you. So, you notice the volume of your cake batter. It's rising. So that is due to our Cake Master. So instead of making a French meringue and then whipping it to medium to stiff peaks, wala na, isang bowl na lang, isang aeration na lang ng eggs yung ang kailangan nyo. So you don't have to check nasang stage ka na ba sa meringue mo. All you have to do is wait for the mixer to mix it for 5 minutes, then you're done. So, you notice your cake batter is rising na, no? Na-aerate na siya. And the color is getting lighter also because you are also incorporating a lot of air into your cake batter. So, the texture of this cake is very spongy, very light, para siyang chiffon. And it's very, very moist. This can keep for around 5 days, 5 to 7 days. Just in case you forget to time it for 5 minutes, how do you know your cake batter is done mixing? Mapapansin mo dun sa bowl, sagad na siya. Hindi na siya umaalsa. So, that means, okay ka na. Tapos ka na. So, what you do is, you reduce the speed to low. Hinaan mo lang yung speed mo. Hinaan mo ng konti. Tapos, you pour in your oil. Okay? When you pour in something into a stand mixer, you pour it on the side of the bowl so it doesn't splatter all over you. Okay? So, let it drip lang dun sa side. Para hindi siya nagkakalat. Tapos, the low speed would help also remove the large bubbles. Okay? Then we'll also add our vanilla flavoring. Turn off the machine. And then mix this by hand just to make sure all of the oil is well incorporated. So we take the bowl out of the machine and then we mix it by hand just to make sure your oil is well incorporated. Pag hindi kasi nahalo yung oil nyo na maigi, it will sink to the bottom of the pan. Tapos mapapansin mo, meron kang skin in the bottom of your pan. So, this is done. we're ready to pan this cake batter. So one recipe is good for a 13 by 16 rectangular pan. Bakit rectangular pan? Kasi ito po yung design na ating cake. Ngayon, if the cake batter is also enough for 4 8-inch pans. Make sure that you line your rectangular pan with parchment paper. Tapos your parchment paper does not need to run on the sides of the pan. Okay lang to. Kung may excess ka, okay na yan. Don't cut it na. But you don't need to have some paper here and then the other end. Okay na to, ganitong size. Okay? So we pour all of our cake batter into the pan. Tapos with this one, because of the cake master, you don't worry so much about the deflation. Okay? Yung parang kung maliit lang yung oven nyo, kasya lang ang isang pan, usually yung tanong is, paano yun? Pwede ba maghantay? For a normal chiffon cake, magde-deflate na yun. But for this recipe, sponge cake with cake master, you don't have to worry about that. Your cake can stand outside the oven for around 15 minutes na minimal lang yung deflation niya. So, when you spread your cake batter into your pan, less movements for you. So, hindi kayo masyadong napapagod. Just spread it to the end. Okay? To the other end, sa corners muna. Okay? Fill the corners first. Then, once you're done, then you can spread it evenly. Okay? So, less movements for you, less pagod. Okay? So, this is done. And then we bake this already. Okay, so you tap it just to remove the excess air bubbles. So, dalawang sheet pan ang kailangan natin ito. So, this is our first. Okay, we already chilled this in the refrigerator. It's always best to bake the cake base a day before para mas tight yung crumbs niya. Hindi na masyadong nagbibitak-bitak dito yung crumbs. Hindi ka na masyadong mahirapang maglinis. And then, I always take out this part, the brown part. We call this the sugar bloom. Okay? Bakit ko tinatanggal? Kasi sa akin, importante na pag hiniwa mo yung cake mo, maganda pa rin siya tignan pag pinicturan. Okay? So, hindi lang yung labas ang maganda, pati pag hiniwa dun sa loob, maganda rin tignan yung cake mo. Kaya ako siya tinatanggal para wala kang brown line pag hiniwa mo yung cake. You don't see it in the inside. Okay? Very malinis lang siya. You just get the yellow parts. Okay? So, there. Unang component ng ating filling is our white chocolate ganache. Okay? So, we have our white chocolate buttons. Kagandahan sa ating white chocolate buttons is naka-chips na siya. Hindi mo na kailangan siyang i-chop, melt na lang siya. Ready to use. But, if you don't have our buttons, you can always use our white compound chocolate. No problem about that. So, you melt your white chocolate and then you scald your cream. Okay, so we melt our white chocolate over gentle heat. This is hot water. Pwede kang gumawa ng manual return of the heat. Tapos, let your chocolate sit lang. Don't mix it. Hayaan mo lang siya matunaw. Pero dapat nakapatay yung apoy nyo para hindi masunog yung inyong tsokolate. So, we will scald our cream. Hayaan mo lang kumulo yung cream mo. You can also use the microwave to heat up your cream. No problem about that. Okay? Just watch it kasi may tendency, this is dairy, so madali itong masunog yung ilalim. So, watch it lang. Tapos, ganun, gentle heat ulit. You just want it to steam up. So, once your small bubbles are starting to form on the sides, okay, tapos nagsistart na siya mag-steam, you're ready to pour this hot cream over your white chocolate. Why do I do this? Kasi I remember when I first made my mousse, naging cookies and cream siya. Nagbuo-buo yung aking chocolate because I did not know how to temper my chocolate into my cold cream. So, for you guys not to make the same mistake as I did, I make the ganache. So, it's easier to fold in your cold cream. So, yan. So, this is your white chocolate ganache. Isa sa mga base ng ating ube and pandan mousseline. Kung may buo-buo ka pang chocolate, just use your spatula, press it on the sides para matunaw lang siya. Okay, it's easier to melt now, tapos wala ka ng buo-buo. Why? Because nag-melt ka na sa gentle heat ng chocolate mo. Mas mabilis na lang siya. So, you just allow this to cool down. You can place it in the refrigerator for a few minutes. Or kung malamig naman yung room, just leave it out. So this is your white chocolate ganache. Susunod na component ng ating muslin is our custard. Easy to mix custard. We have our cremidor and our milk. So napakadali lang nito gawin. Lalagay lang natin yung ating cremidor powder dito sa bowl. Pour in our cold milk. Tapos whisk lang until smooth. Now this will help enrich our mousse. Okay? Kasi ang traditional mousse natin, meron siyang egg yolk. Ngayon, isa rin yan sa mga common mistakes ng mga ating home baker. Hindi nila naluluto sa tamang stage yung kanilang egg yolk. So, minsan, nagbubuo-buo siya. May makikita ka o malalasahan kang strings of egg yolk. So, you don't want that. So, just use this na lang, our cremidor. Why do we need the eggs? The eggs will enrich it. So, you have a better mouthfeel dun sa iyong mousse. It lingers more in the tongue. So, mas magandang experience para dun sa iyong client na bibili ng iyong cake. And then, we'll set this aside. So, yung last component ng ating mousse is our whip it. Okay? Ang ating star ingredient for ating mousse. Napakadali lang gawin itong mousse na to dahil pagsasama-samahin na lang natin yung ating ganache at saka yung ating cremidor. Okay, so I use a wire whisk to fold everything in. Why? Kasi aerated siya. Para you can incorporate more air para very, very light lang siya to the mouth. So this is our cremidor. Fold it into muna yung aking cremidor using the wire whisk. Okay. Okay. And then after that, we will pour in our white chocolate ganache. Okay, so we pour in our white chocolate ganache. See? It's easier na to incorporate it kasi malamig na ating whip it. Ngayon, kung hindi ka marunong mag-temper ng iyong chocolate, mangyayari niyan, mamumuo agad yung chocolate mo. Okay, so may chocolate chips ka na dyan, white chocolate chips ka na. Imbis na white chocolate flavored mousse. Now, you can use this as is. Ito na yung feeling mo. You can add vanilla flavor if you want. You can add strawberry or any of the other flavors. But as is, you want a white chocolate mousse, you already have it here. So, we'll fold this in again with our wire whisk. Tapos short movements lang so you don't, again, tire yourself out too much. Okay. Rotate your bowl. And then move your wire whisk up and down now. Until you incorporate all of the ingredients. Less movement, always. So, mapapansin mo, the base is also getting thick and very heavy na. Okay. Once that is incorporated, okay, tap it into your spatula. We shift to our spatula. Just to make sure everything is well incorporated, we scrape the sides. Okay, and then the bottom also. Here. So as is, ito na inyong white chocolate muslin. Now what we will do is, we will divide this in two kasi gagawin natin siya ng dalawang flavor. Yung ating pandan at saka yung ating ube. We divided our white chocolate muslin in two bowls. Okay? So, yung isang bowl para sa pandan muslin, tapos yung isang bowl para sa ube muslin. So, we'll just flavor it. We'll pour our ube flavorade sa ating muslin. Make sure, before you pour in your flavorade, you shake it. Okay? This is water-based, tapos flavor, color, and aroma in one na to. So, maganda siya mini-measure by weight or what's so good about this, because you have the flavor and the color na, you can do this by eye. Medyo matatansya mo na siya by eye kung gaano karami ang kailangan mo. So, you just fold it in. So, ganun lang siya kadali gamitin. So, if you see na parang pale yung color, it will also translate to the flavor. So, pag maputla pa yung kulay niya, ibig sabihin, medyo kulang pa tayo, so dadagdagan pa natin. Ito yung ating pandan. But the measurements will also be given, okay? The measurements that are given in the recipe, that's just a recommendation. You can always add or take away depending on your taste, okay? So see, now I'm doing it by eye lang. And don't worry too much about adding too much. Hindi, wala namang off flavor to eh. You won't get a bitter aftertaste with this one. Tapos you can also use this. You can also mix it with our yema and then flavor our yemas with our flavor aid. So this is good. This is our pandan muslin. Okay, and then I'll make my ube muslin. Same. I'm gonna do this by eye. Pour in my flavor aid. And then fold it in. So you have a deep violet color, ube aroma, and ube flavor. And then while you're preparing the cake bases, you can let this rest inside the chiller to let it firm up and set before we use this as filling. So we transferred our cake into a cake board. Pwede rin kung saan mo siya ipipresent, pwede mo na rin siya idiretso doon. Tapos unang gagawin natin, papahiran lang natin ng manipis na layer ng whipped yung top ng cake. Okay, we'll just coat it with a thin layer lang. Okay, again, because you want also the inside to look nice. So very thin lang siya. Because you don't want too much filling naman. If you have too much filling, baka mag-slide naman yung cake mo. So it's not stable anymore if you have a very thick filling. And it doesn't taste good. Okay, dapat tama lang yung proportion ng cake dun sa palaman natin. Kung lumagpas siya dun sa sides, okay lang yan. Don't worry about it. So already spread a thin layer of whipped on top of the cake. And then we're gonna create a dam dun sa sides. So magpa-pipe lang tayo ng whipped dito sa gilid ng cake para hindi lang mag-ooze out yung ating palaman. Just in case, ang panigurado lang to. White kasi white rin yung pang-coat natin ng cake mamaya. Yung walang tip to. This is just whip it in a piping bag. And you're making a dam lang. Okay? So, yan. Kumuha ka na ng dam. Next, lalagyan na natin siya ng pandan at ube muslin. Alternate natin siya. Okay. So, now, we're gonna fill it na with our ube muslin and our pandan muslin. Ngayon, i-alternate natin siya. So, pipe, pandan, in the middle of the ube. So, unahin ko muna si ube. If you notice, yung piping bag ko, hindi ko siya in-overfill kasi mas mahirap i-control ang piping bag na punong-puno. Tapos, I use my right hand, my dominant hand to squeeze, and then my left hand to guide it. Okay? So, it doesn't shake too much. And then, I fill in the gaps with my pandan filling. Again, walang tip to. Although, if you have a round tip, it's good to use a round tip for this one. So, we alternate it. Para paghiwa ng cake, maganda siya. Tapos, don't draw the line like a pencil or a ball pen. Nako-suspend yung piping bag mo. Para bumabagsak na lang yung laman ng piping bag mo dun sa pinagpapipan mo. Fill it up all the way to the end. Now, you don't have to stick to the pandan and the ube. Okay? So, you can make mango pandan or ube and white chocolate lang. Okay. So, yan na yung filling mo. You'll have a little bit left over also. You have enough filling. So, there. So, we spread another thin layer of whipped. Doon naman sa second. Ito yung para sa top na natin. Manipis lang. Okay? So, kung sama-sama yung mga crumbs na ganyan, okay lang yan. Pero, kung chinil nyo yan overnight or freeze, kung may space kayo sa freezer, mas maganda. Actually, yung pwede nyo gawin, mag-bake na kayo ng kung marami kayong order. One day, puro bake lang ng cake bases, tambak sa freezer. Next day, gawa ng filling. Tapos third day, assemble lang para mas madali yung flow nyo. Okay? You can always store your cake bases in the freezer for a month. Okay? Kung maganda lang yung pagkapack, tsaka maganda yung temperature ng freezer nyo. Okay, so kung medyo malaki yung size ng cake mo, you can always use the pan to flip the second layer on top of the first layer. Okay, so we just put this here. So there, okay na siya. I did not peel off my parchment paper yet. Okay, make sure that you can press it lightly just to fuse the two layers together. Okay, press it lightly, then peel off your parchment paper. Yan. Then, medyo pantay mo lang, peel off. There. So, now, your cake is ready for its final frosting. Pinatog na natin yung pangalawang layer natin doon sa cake. Kung hindi man siyang pantay, you can try to unti-unti slide it para magpantay. But don't worry too much about that. Don't stress too much about that. Kasi, matatakpan naman yan ng iyong icing. Mapapantayan yan ng icing mo. Okay? So, press it lang para mag-fuse. And then, don't worry too much about the not so even sides. Okay? Huwag lang masyado malaki yung gap. Kung malaki yung gap, urong-urong lang. Press lang ng konti dun sa cake mo. And then, this one, this is done already. It's filled na. Chef Reco, our cake artist, will do the finishing for this cake. I'll pass this on to Chef Reco.
Magpo-frosting na tayo ng cake. So, first, crumb coat muna natin. So, manipis lang dapat muna. So, napapansin nyo, yung whippet ko, makintab, saka smooth na smooth. So, ang ginamit ko dito na liquid is 250 grams lang sa 1 kilo. So, normally, 500 grams ang ginagamit natin. Pero dito ngayon, special kasi yung decoration ko. Saka gusto ko mas maganda yung pang-smooth ko na icing. So, ang ginamit ko dito is 250 grams na cold water. Then, nagdagdag ako ng 50 grams na light corn syrup. So, napapansin nyo, makintab siya, saka wala masyado siyang air bubbles. So, ganun dito din, pag nagpa-pipe ka, hindi masyadong pumuputok yung sa dulo ng piping tip pag halimbawa may air bubbles siyang konti. So, tuloy-tuloy, hindi siya napuputol yung pagpa-piping mo. So, lagyan natin sa sides. So, manipis lang muna, pinapantay muna natin yung cake ng icing. So, para madali yung pag-smooth natin. Normally, pag nag-icing sa mga big commissary, pag mabilisan, makapal na kaagad. Pero ako kasi, una muna, kina-crumb coat muna para yung mga crumbs is mako-compress, hindi siya sasama sa icing pag fully frosting ka na siya. Ganun lang siya. So later on, saka natin linisin yung ating board. So ganito siya ka-stable yung whippet. So pag usually pag malaki yung cake mo, dapat mahaba din yung spatula mo para sakop lahat, saka mas mabilis. So, lagyan na natin siya. Then, spread natin evenly. So, ang whippet, pag halimbawa naka-steady lang siya, hindi nyo ginagamit, normal yun na medyo nagda-dry up siya. Pero when gagamit ka ng light corn syrup, kasama doon sa liquid, hindi masyado siya nagda-dry up. Then, kung mangyari na yung parang nagda-dry up siya, i-mix mo lang siya, pabalik yung dati niyang consistency. So, i-even na natin siya. So, napakadali siya i-smooth. Sides, kailangan nating tanggalin yung excess. Then, pantay natin. So, kailangan malinis yung spatula natin bago natin i-scrape ulit para siya masyadong dumidikit. So, kunting stroke lang, makinis na kagad at pantay yung ating cake. sa sides yung board natin. Scrape lang natin yung excess na whippet. Then i-wipe natin ang tissue. Then set aside natin, gagawin naman natin yung ating pang-design. So gagawa tayo ng mixture ng baker's gel and food color. So lalagyan din natin siya ng flavor aid. So meron tayong ditong baker's gel, ubi flavor aid, and sky blue na gel color. So gagawa tayo ng color blue sa baker's gel. So dahil violet yung ating ubi flavor aid, dadagdag tayo ng sky blue color para magiging siyang blue. So, buhos natin siya konti lang kasi mas matapang ang violet. Then, mag-add tayo ng sky blue. So, medyo marami yung sky blue. Yan. Then, mix lang natin. Yan. Pag naghalo yung sky blue and violet, nagiging dark blue ang color niya. So, meron na tayong dark blue na baker's gel. So, ang consistency nito is malapot. So, ideal ito pang lining natin mamaya. Pero gagawa tayo ng pang dilute. So, yun yung next nating gagawin. So ito po, meron tayong 100 grams na light corn syrup, 100 grams na cold water. So i-mix lang natin sila together. So same mixture din na hinahalo natin sa ating baker's gel glaze. So i-mix lang natin. Pour natin. Then mix lang natin. So itong mixture na to gagamitin natin pang dilute mamaya sa ating baker's gel na mayroong food color na and flavor para maging malabnaw yung kanyang consistency. So halimbawa po may natira nito or marami kayong nagawa, pwede nyo siyang i-store sa chiller lang. Then pag halimbawa gagamitin nyo siya pang dilute sa baker's gel o pang glaze, meron na kayong magagamit na syrup. So ito yung ating baker's gel, i-dilute natin. So bubuhos mo lang siya paunti-unti. Depende sa consistency mo na gustong gawin. So, mix mo lang slowly para mag-avoid din siya ng bubbles. Ayan. So, labnawan lang natin siya. Ito rin yung paraan na pag halimbawa in-apply natin doon sa gusto nating design, papantay siya. Then, it remains siya na makintab. Mix lang natin. Huwag nating biglayin kasi minsan baka mapasobra yung ating dilution. Pangit naman siya tingnan. So, kailangan siyang paunti-unti lang. So, ito pwede na siyang consistency na to. Okay na to pang color flow sa ating cake. So, meron tayo ditong baker's gel with food color lang. Malapot yung consistency nito. Ito yung gagawin nating pang lining mamaya. So, nilagay ko siya sa piping bag na gawa sa cello sheet plastic. Then, meron tayo ditong baker's gel. Pero itong consistency na to is diluted na siya. Pag gagawin natin siyang pang color flow. So, dito ko siya nilagay sa piping bag na malaki para malaki din or pang color flow lang siya. So, meron ako nitong round na tip. So, hindi ko siya gagamitin. Pang stamp lang siya. Then, meron akong parang star na tip. So, gagamitin natin yan pang stamp ulit. Then, ito po, barbecue stick, pang smooth. Then, ito yung ating scraper. Mamaya, magagamit natin to sa ating pang design. So, ito yung materials na kailangan natin. So ngayon, is-sketch na natin sa cake yung ating design na gustong gawin. So first, mag-sketch muna ako dito ng square. So sketch lang muna. Sketch lang muna tayo. So, kailangan rough sketch lang muna siya. So ngayon, nahulaan nyo na siguro yung design na gusto ko. Yan. Then, lagyan natin siya rito ng logo later on. So, gamit tayo ng scraper. Lagyan lagyan natin siya ng texture. Mag-stamp tayo dito. Then, for the stars, gamit tayo nito. Then, lagyan natin ng rays. So, 8. Then, ilalining na natin siya ng whippet. Outline muna natin yung sides. So, outline lang natin kung saan yung may color white na portion. Then, outline natin yung sa yellow na portion. So, unahin muna natin yung stars. Then, i-flow natin siya. So, dahil hindi siya diluted, i-smooth lang natin siya ng wooden na spoon. So, kailangan natin siyang i-smooth kaagad bago mag-set yung baker's gel para madali siyang mag-smooth. Then, yung last na stars. Then, yung ating sun. So, natin yung rays sa side. So, sketch muna natin. So, muna natin siya i-detail. Okay, flow na natin habang din-detail natin siya. Smooth natin para pumantay lang siya. Saka natin siya i-detail ng whippet on the outside. So ganun din sa stars. Outline din natin siya para maging sharp yung edge ng mga stars. Then yung ating natin yung blue. So outline natin. So ito po purely baker's gel and food color lang siya. So ito rin yung mga consistency na ginagamit pang typing writing. Malapot siya. Then, color flow natin siya. So this time, diluted na yung ating baker's gel na gagamitin. Papansin nyo, madali siyang ipapipe kasi diluted na siya. So parang nagpo-color flow lang tayo. So papantayin natin siya. Or kahit hindi na natin siya smooth kasi diluted naman siya, madali siyang mapag-flatten. Then next natin yung red. Sa outline natin. Then color flow natin. So So, ganyan siya pag halimbawa dinilute mo yung baker's gel. Pwede mo siya pang glaze, pwede mo siya pang color flow. So, that's it. So, pwede mo siyang itap yung cake para pumantay lang siya. Then, gagawin natin yung sa ibabang portion na design. So, that's the logo of Bakersfield. So, the brown symbolize the cocoa. Then, the green symbolize the leaf o green label. Then, last, the yellow one symbolize the butter. So, that's the logo Bakersfield. So, gagawin natin siya ng border sa top. So, tinatawag nito na reverse shell border. Then last, sa bottom, then last sides, so that's it, ang ating Independence Day cake.